Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings. First of all, a quick sloosh, very essential. A little bit of Islay malt. I once had a collection of 80 Islay malts when I was still a computer salesman. It was a very happy time, but unfortunately I kept losing my jobs, and so the number of bottles were depleted fairly rapidly. Still, never mind. Today I'm not talking about my books. I'm not talking about books that I've got on the go. This is the latest one. I'm talking about a special request from Laura. So thank you, Laura. She asked me after my last item on marketing, she said, have you ever had self-doubt or fears regarding your writing? And if so, how did you overcome it? She said, writing is easy, but the sales and promotion's terrifying. Yes, it is. And it's not actually that much better the more books you've written or the more you've had published. At the end of the day, the big difficulty with publishing is that, excuse me, it aids thought, you know. And it's good. The big difficulty with publishing is that you are only ever as good as the book you did last. And however well the sales did on that book, that's how you are perceived by the publisher. I know a number of really, really good authors. Robert Barnard is one of them, who was one of the most competent, really excellent authors I've ever met. If you haven't read his books, go and find them and read them. They are superb. But he suffered from low sales for a while, and so he lost his contract with his publisher, and life was very hard for him ever after. You look at any number of authors over the years, and it's not easy, and it does mean that you've always got that nagging fear that this book could be the one that's going to ruin me. I remember Robin Williams once giving a talk, and he said that when he had his son, he used to have alternate dreams. One dream was he'd wake up and he'd see his son standing behind a podium saying, well, I'd like to thank the Nobel Committee for... And then the other one, he was standing by a similar podium and saying, do you want fries with that? And that's a bit like writing. You never know, is this going to be the very best one you've ever done, or is it going to be the book that loses you your contract because nobody's going to buy it? And there's no way of telling what will work. I am a very firm, keen exponent of getting out and doing the sales and marketing yourself, because you cannot rely on other people to do it. I know of people who have had books come out where they have not had any marketing input whatsoever from their publishers. A lot of publishers will take a view of, this is a new author, hasn't really cost us anything much, we gave them $5,000 for the rights, so we'll let them go out, we'll publish them, and we'll see how the book does. If the book doesn't do very well, we've only lost 5,000 quid, it's not much. We'll probably make that back anyway, actually, in sales, even if it doesn't do very well. Whereas for the author, of course, it could be life and death and the next mortgage payment. So, have I had self-doubts or fears regarding my writing? Yes. There are times when you've finished a book when you just know that it's not right, but you haven't got time to go back and change it any more times. There are times when, while you're writing it, you think, this is dreadful, it is not working, there's something wrong. When that happens, how do I overcome it? Well, with the first, I keep on writing and then try to review at the very end whether there's anything vital that I have to change immediately. But I tend to take the attitude that if there isn't time to change things, it's best that it goes to the publisher on time, and the editor can then tell me what she wants to see changed in it. Very often an editor will come at it completely fresh, they haven't seen it, and they can say, well, it's a horrible hole, why have you got 60 pages of describing this at the very beginning when really you want to get straight into the action? Why have you got this hole in the middle of the book when really you want to be moving things on? Why is the ending like this? It ought to be a bit more of a big bang. And you can't see it necessarily because you're so tied up in the nitty-gritty of the book. Don't forget, when you're writing a book, my books tend to be 140,000, this is 70,000, this is halfway through. If you've got 140,000 words and you're trying to control the thoughts and the motivations and the feelings and the aspirations of maybe 8, 9, 10 people in a book, trying to keep all of their thoughts in your head at the same time as trying to control what's happening with a plot, or at least seeing how a plot develops logically through those people, is very difficult, and you do get it wrong, and sometimes you are absolutely convinced that's the direction the plot should take, but an editor will come in and say, you're absolutely mad, that's the way the plot goes, and then it doglegs back. There's different ways of doing things, but all I'm saying is that if you've got a book on deadline, you send it in but you're not entirely happy with it, that is not the end of the world. What is much more difficult is when you're writing the book and you think this is going completely wrong. And with that second instance, I would always recommend carry on with it, finish the book, and then if you've got time, leave it for a week, 2 weeks, and then come back to it moderately fresh. You see things so much more clearly. Another thing that does happen is you see a bit of writing that you've done and you see so many holes in repetition of words in the same paragraph. You see 3 or 4 sentences starting with the same word. You see all sorts of little nitty-gritty irritating things, and the best way around all of that is just read every word aloud. Do not sit at your computer and read it on the screen. A backlit screen means that you miss 40% at least of all of the errors. If you read it aloud from a sheet of paper, you'll be much, much more accurate. It's infinitely better. And I find standing up while doing it works much better for me, which is why I built this little desk. So I can stand here, I can read through my notes, I can add the different elements I need. If I'm sitting at a desk reading my own work, I do get drowsy. Standing up, I don't. It keeps you mentally a bit more alert. It's better for you. Other forms of self-doubt are, of course, actually, I'm a useless writer, I shouldn't be doing this job. Why didn't I go and qualify to be an actuary or a lawyer or anything that would pay a monthly salary? The only way to get around that is to keep on writing, I think. I think all authors go through that at some point or another, usually when you've just had another advance come through and you see that it's not as big as the latest Michael Connolly or Jeff Deaver or anybody else's advances. Everybody seems to earn more than you when you're an author. It's a very painful fact, but it's true. But writing novels is to a large extent a gamble. It's one of those things where you are hoping that at some point somebody will see the book and they'll tell all their friends, and all of a sudden you'll have a 50 Shades of Grey type massive success, or a Harry Potter type massive success. Trouble is, of course, that only happens to a tiny, tiny number of authors, and we've got thousands of authors in this country. We've got more books coming out in Britain. There's one book for every 2,000 people in Britain, I think it is. There's a very high number of publications in this country, much more than most other countries. And you're competing with all of them, in effect. I mean, writers are not competitive spirits by nature, but we are in a competitive business. So you have to live with that. The only thing you can do to overcome that is go out to libraries, to bookshops, and sell yourself. And then hopefully you will keep the spirit, you'll keep your motivation going, and life will end up good. And on that note, I'm going to stick to my whiskey now. And if you're trying to write, just sit down and carry on writing. There's no other way to do it. If you like this, add a comment. If you've got any ideas for things that you'd like me to speak about, let me know in the comment section or send me an email. Subscribe, like, share, all those things, and then that way I can justify spending my time doing these little talks. Cheers!